So talk about that. That's a question that I have. Is like, you said he was a social psychologist.
Yeah.
Right. So how did that influence you? You know what I'm saying? Growing up and being a father and being an educator.
My old earth was like, she was so swift. It was like putting nitro in a Lamborghini Countach. You know what I'm saying?
Build on that.
So she was, you know, I oftentimes tell people she was like the Oracle in the Matrix with a Richard Pryor sense of humor. You know what I mean? And like, for example, when me and some of my siblings were young, if it would be raining outside, and I'm talking about maybe being like knowledge, wisdom years old or something, my twin brothers was like knowledge. She'd say, okay, y'all, let's go look for our friends. And she'd put us in the car. We had this station wagon, and we'd drive around our city and get to this place where there was a bridge, and underneath the bridge, some of the homeless would camp out underneath there to get shelter from the rain. So she would drive us over there and say, okay, you see your friends? Wave to them, and then take us back home.
Wow.
You know?
What kind of impression did that have on you?
I see them. In terms of social consciousness, if you don't see what's going on, it's impossible to even consider doing anything about it. She made us be conscious of our environment and some of the decisions certain people have when there's a chronic scarcity of resources, when they don't have accessibility to certain things. Other people might have driven right by. She made it a point that we see them. You know what I mean? We played a lot of board games together as a family, so I have 6 other siblings. So one of the games we used to play was called This Book of Questions, and it was a book that had about 300 questions in it, and the questions would be stuff like, if you had one day to live on the earth, what would you do with your day? If you had to give up one of your 5 senses, what sense would you give up and why? And it was all of these different questions to get you to think, and it was fun because we played as a family. When I got to college, I'm in my dorm with my teammates, and I'm like, yo, I gotta find that game that we used to play, because that would be fun for us to play nowadays, right? I couldn't find it. It was years later where I got the thought again, because I'm doing my after school program, and I'm like, yo, this would be a dope game to play with my students. So I'm looking all around and stuff. I happen to find it on Amazon, and it's not even a game, it's a psychology book. So all of these years, my mother was sitting here, you know, if you ever read the book Pimp by Iceberg Slim, they call it sculling. She was sculling us. You know what I mean? Trying to find out what we thought, our principles and our values, figuring out who was in her household.
Wow.
And how we felt about certain things. So she knew how to check it, because she was coming in a fine mist that the naked eye could hardly detect. You know what I'm saying? So she was doing shit like that. You know? My old dad, he was more into cultural consciousness, and it is through my old dad where my lineage of Josiah Henson comes from, because he is the son of my grandmother, who was Josiah Henson's great-granddaughter. She was born in Canada, moved over here to the United States. My father was born, and I'm one of his siblings. So he was more culturally conscious. So like I mentioned earlier, I have 2 million ancestry, Tuscarora ancestry. So we would always spend time on the Tuscarora reservation growing up. I didn't understand why. I used to just think that my old dad was just cool with some of the indigenous people that lived out there. You know, he also collected African artifacts. So I'm in elementary school, and I knew who the Maasai tribe was, the Dinka tribe, the Watusi tribe. I knew about classical civilization of our people beyond slavery, because he ensured that he taught us about that. I grew up in a household where we had a red, black, and green flag. We didn't have no American flag or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't grow up in a typical black family where it was a religious base. It was more social and culturally conscious. And
very scientific, you know, like get into your mind, like how you thinking and traveling around with your old earth like that. That's
and it wasn't anything where they taught me and my siblings what to be when we got older. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that that's not a negative thing, but we were taught how to be. You know, taught to be critical thinkers. So growing up and learning and studying different things, when I start learning about the 5%, and my family wasn't like, oh, yo, you, nah, they was like, okay. Because they was already teaching us about black consciousness, you know, a sense of nationalism, social advocacy, youth outreach. These were things that was always around me.
Were they familiar with the 5%?
No, not in like a formal sense.
Okay.
But just some of the influences through other different things that they were exposed to.
Right.
You know, my parents, they were more aligned with the Black Panthers.
Oh, okay. Right.
So that was more their orientation, to the point where we used to have like a gun in the house with a scope on it and an infrared gun, infrared ray. You know what I mean? So my parents they presented civilized, but underneath that shit, they was radical. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they invested in the importance of education and being culturally conscious. You know? So like growing up, they exposed us to all of the so-called black exploitation films, Sweet Sweetback, Dolomite, Spook That Sat by the Door. This was every year. One of like our customs is when Shaka Zulu came on TV, we would sit down and watch it as a family. You know what I'm saying? So like my family dynamics set a foundation for me to be prepared to learn about the 5%. So it was a natural evolution to me. It was not something that was totally different than what I was exposed to growing up. You know what I mean?
If Mecca did this,